I swear there's only two.
Wonderful noise.
That was it. Okay, round 3. Alright. I started this stopwatch, this timer, the second I was born, but time can be a tricky tool of measurement. Between those days that fly by in the blink of an eye, and those minutes that mimic centuries, it's hard to define the length of any given moment, month, or millennium. Of course, we can place numerical values to lengths of time, but how much meaning does that truly give? As of December 9th, 2012, I will have spent approximately 113 days atop the Colorado Plateau. That is 2,712 hours, 162,720 minutes, or 9,763,200 seconds. When that day comes, I will have been alive for approximately 22 years and 319 days. That's 721,353,600 seconds. When you break it down and look at it numerically, some of these numbers come across as unfathomably large, infinite almost. Honestly, how many things have you done 721,353,600 times? But it burrows deeper than that. Because although I've been alive for over 7 million seconds, I have also lived a lifetime in 60 of them. I have walked a mile in a footstep. I've smelled the Grand Canyon in a pebble. Therefore, it's important to take solace in the little things, because it's the subtle stumbling pebble that sparks the avalanche. So what really is infinity? George Cantor, founder of set theory in mathematics, proved that not all infinite sets are the same size, and thus, infinite sets can be compared with one another. Cantor once said, "A set is a many that allows itself to be thought of as a one." This quote resonates with experiences in my life that tend to get lumped together in my mind. I lived in Indonesia for over a year of my life, and yet, I think of all those tens of millions of seconds, those millions of memories, those hundreds of days of life, in my mind is all under the umbrella of the solitary number 1. 1 year, give or take, of my life. Less than 5% of my time alive. Although I analyze everything in my life numerically and mathematically, I found it is important to step back and qualify these equations I'm trying to equate. Because just as any applied math problem, your variables must abide by the real-life parameters. Although my adventures in Asia amount to a mere 4.blah-blah-blah% of my life, I value the perspective gained and the experiences attained as some of the most treasured millions of seconds of my life thus far. The Grand Canyon semester is another of these anomalies to the comparative value of a segment of time spent in two different places. Upon looking back on this semester, I know these 9,763,200 seconds will be some of the most prized within my collection. And yet, that same handful of millions of seconds would not have been worth as much if I had not come to Arizona. Thus, although numbers do not lie, they leave spaces between their digits for emotions, memories, and connections to grow. With this growth comes added weight to the numbers they envelop, making the same number weigh more than it used to. 3 days for Hopi, 4 days for Cane Ranch, and 8 days for the river trip. Altogether, it hardly surpasses a fortnight. And yet, these 15 days cumulatively have rewarded me with some of the deepest rooted epiphanies, the richest thoughts, and most cherished moments of my life. On the other side of the equation, added together, they account for less than 0.2% of my life. But can 0.2 really be worth more than a 0.4 or a 0.6? One of the most pivotal hours of this semester, of my life, was spent lying atop a rock at the cusp of Bass Rapid, buried below a sea of stars. This hour, accounting for less than 0.0005% of my life so far, brought more insight to light than amassed within large chunks of my existence. Those 3,600 seconds cracked the code to open my cornea and open the door for a sky full of stars to swarm in. They surreptitiously slithered century-old sediments sifting through the river and squeezed them between my shivering toes. They busted down the floodgates in my eardrums and stood aside while rhythmic flows converged into rushing rapids within my ears. Even the almighty moon moves a mere half a degree relative to the stars in the amount of time I achieved all of that. Is that not what it's all about, though? Being able to feel infinite on the inside, like a giant, all while standing at the altar of the raging Colorado River, the mile-high canyon, and the vast solar system? Or how about the 50 minutes and 28 seconds that I ran during the Water is Life run? In just over 3,000 seconds, I accomplished something I had never done before. If I were back in Florida working for minimum wage, that experience would not even be worth $7.67. But wouldn't you sacrifice that much money to see the world you had looked at for so many years through a different lens? To feel like a mountain and a grain of sand simultaneously? To come in 13th place in the race, but first place in the percentage of perspective gained? Have you ever gotten out of bed before the sun and gave it a lending hand up into the sky? Ever seen it claw and clamber over the crevice of the canyon in the far-off distance at Cane Ranch? Watching it crawl closer and closer over the ranch until it reaches the blue grama grass resting atop your feet? Have you ever heard the sun's silent soliloquy, speaking only to the most exclusive of audiences, all before 7 a.m.? Well, I have. Because the sun may have shined light down upon the whole entire Colorado Plateau, but in that moment, it simultaneously shot me straight through. So how do you factor moments like these into the equation? How do you assign the insurmountable weight to such a small percentage? George Cantor then went on to say, in mathematics, the art of asking questions is more valuable than solving problems. At first ponder, this statement could come across as inaccurate. Is it not more valuable to fill in blanks than to draw question marks? But once you have an experience like the Grand Canyon semester, once you learn to live a lifetime in an hour, you begin to see that the more questions you ask, the larger the circumference of your curiosity grows. And with each new door that is open comes a price tag of the inquisitiveness to ask the next question, but a guarantee of wisdom and perspective at the end of the hall, right before the next open door. Because without that itching of an inkling to do this semester, I would not have filled in as many blank spaces. But more importantly, I would not have drawn as many question marks.